as much as you can be.
Exactly.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, Ben. It's inspiring.
Thank you. And I'm not having this class be awkward, so I do not care if I'm the only one with a face cam on. I'm not having it be awkward.
Fortunately, when I'm on screen share, I don't get to see anybody talking, so it's awesome. I don't have to actually see anybody at all. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to finish up what would be chapter 3. Again, if we were book people, what would be chapter 3 about the publishing industry before we move on to the next unit, which is going to be about audio, recording industry and radio, which is hopefully more interesting to you guys because you're probably more familiar with the recording industry and radio than you are with print for reasons we've talked about before. Print's dying. Print's going away. And your generation is not responsible for killing it, but you sure aren't helping. You didn't put the needle in the arm of print, but you guys aren't exactly like, pulling the needle out or anything. So what are some of the major moves that have occurred in the media industry, or excuse me, in the publishing industry? We went over the history, right? Those kind of specific incidents, specific moments in history that were significant. Well, what are some of the major trends that we're seeing throughout that history? One is the move from transcription to pressings. We talked about the Koreans inventing the copper press, copper plate press, and we talked about Gutenberg with a movable type. That was a huge move in terms of publishing because, like I said, it eliminated a lot of the problems we had with print, right? Number one, you could easily mass produce something, right? Very, very quickly and very simply. But perhaps the most important is how it affected duplication errors, how it affected transcription errors. I mentioned this. We talked about the movable type. We talked about Gutenberg. We talked about the copper press. When you have a copy of a book on one side and a blank book next to it, and you have to hand transcribe, hand write one book to the next, it's just a guarantee that you're going to have errors. It's a guarantee that there's going to be mistakes made, either because your brain translates what you saw into a different word, or you misspell something, or even if you just have bad handwriting, right? If you have bad handwriting, the person who's transcribing off of your copy is also going to mistranslate. There's also going to be problems. There's actually a really good book called Misquoting Jesus by Bart Ehrman. And it's all about, Bart Ehrman is a biblical scholar. And what he does is he looks at the original text that still exists, that the Bible was translated from. And he looks at the original Greek, the original Aramaic, the original Latin, depending on what book of the Bible you're talking about. And then he looks at the modern interpretations, right? The King James translation, the New International Version, right? All these different translations of the Bible that exist today. And you can see these dramatic changes from the original text to the modern copies simply because of basic transcription errors, where somebody was writing it down and either missed a word or miswrote a word, or they were working off of a bad copy to begin with. So when we invent pressings, when we invent the copper press, and when Gutenberg comes along with movable type, we now have a reliable way to make sure that your words stay consistent from copy to copy, as well as, again, mass production, right? Now you can have multiple copies of the same book, which then increases the readership, increases the amount of people who can put their eyes on that book, and also increases the amount of literacy, increases the amount of people who can actually get, engaged with the material, which is something that you weren't really easily accomplished when you're dealing with transcriptions. The next major move, if I can get my mouse to work here. Come on. Come on. You know you want to work. There we go. Oh, it's just going to do them all. Okay. The next major move was from pressings to audio. Hold on. It's Ben's fault. We're going to go with Ben's fault on that one. That was all Ben. No, stop it. We're going to stop that. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Now you all have to look at Ben. Ha-ha.
Yay.
Ha-ha. Take that. Life is hard. You have to look at Ben. Just a second here. I'm going to do this a different way. All right, so let's skip ahead here. We'll do this like we did before. There we go. All right. So the next major move, right, after transcription to pressings is pressings to audio, right? And we talked about how the release of audiobooks, books on tape back in the day, was significant because it allowed you to kind of multitask while still taking in books, right? While still taking in material. Reading isn't something you can do while you're doing something else, right? You can't drive and read, even though there are idiots in Chicago who I see do it every damn time I drive into Chicago. You're not supposed to. That's how people die. You can't read while you're cooking, right? Reading is kind of a dedicated task. So when we have books on tape, not only does it give people more access, right, just like with pressings, but it also is another way that the industry can make money off of the same product, right? Because now you can purchase the actual physical book, or you can purchase access to the book on tape, or in modern day, access to the audio recording. And again, just more opportunities to sell the same product. It increases access and increases profitability. Then when we move to digital, the third major move, going from audiobooks to the digital realm, the Kindle, the e-reader, the e-book, again, dramatically increases the amount of access to those materials, the spread of those materials, as well as the profitability of those materials. It's really, really cheap to distribute an ebook. You're just paying for the intellectual property and a little bit of electricity and a little bit of server space. It's really easy to distribute an ebook. There's very little overhead involved. And so it makes the industry stay afloat a little longer. It allows for printing to kind of stick around a little bit longer. But the shift in the industry is moving away from formatting books for print to formatting books for digital, where they're now worried about pagination and chaptering and things like that. They're switching their whole mindset from how did we used to make chapters to how do we make them for an ebook as opposed to a physical copy. And it actually changes the way you write a book, oddly enough, believe it or not. It changes the way authors are writing. And so that move to digital is having almost as much, if not more, of an impact than that first major move to pressings, right? It's dramatically shifting the way the publishing industry works. And again, this goes for books, magazines, and newspapers. They're all moving to digital. This is probably my favorite slide in the whole class. And I like doing the slow reveal, but my computer doesn't want to work like that. So you just have to see it all. We're going to do a little math exercise here that should make you mad. In 2015, right, in the year 2015, book sales in the United States reached $29 billion. So that's all books, right? That's Harry Potter, that's Twilight, that's, trade books, that's the Bible, that's everything, right? All books sold in the United States amounted to $29 billion. Textbooks make up 28.5% of sales. So a little more than 1 in 4. Of every 4 books sold in the United States, one of them was a textbook in 2015. If we do the math, what's 28.5% of $29 billion? That means that in 2015 alone, textbook sales reached $8.265 billion. So when you ask, why am I paying $300 for a math book? Look at that. Look at that margin right there. Look at that margin. To kind of bring it home a little bit more specifically to Highland, the Highland bookstore has a flat 25% markup on all of their products, books and non-books. So when you buy a book at the Highland bookstore for $100, that means that the bookstore paid $75 to get it, right? It costs the bookstore $75 to get that book on their shelf. And they're only getting $25 from you. And that $25 goes to divvying out for, overhead costs, like paying for the physical space, paying for the electricity, paying for the labor hours of the people who work at the store, et cetera, et cetera. So the publishers are charging an impossibly high rate per book just to even have it available for you. People who write textbooks aren't rich, right? Let's dispel that myth right away too. I don't know if it's a really popular myth, but why does it cost $75? Why does the publisher price these so high? Do you guys have any theories as to why textbooks are priced as high as they are by the publisher?
Monopolized industry.
Monopolized industry? Any other guesses? Any business majors in here, or anybody who's taken business classes maybe? Anybody know how does any business determine price, right? If I'm going to start making widgets and I want to sell my widgets on the open market, how do I determine the price of my widget?
I have no idea.
Thanks, Ben.
Welcome.
Yes, Adam, by demand. What are people willing to pay? I need to make sure that my overhead is covered, right? So if it costs me 38 cents to make this widget, I need to make at least 38 cents back in what I charge for the widget, right? Because if I'm not making back at least as much as I put in, I'm going to be out of business really, really fast. Okay? So I need to make, first of all, at least as much. And that's just to cover my cost. Every cent I make more than cost is what we call profit, right? So if you think about a textbook that costs $100, right? You buy it for $100. The bookstore is getting $25 of that money. The other $75 is going to the publisher. Well, where is the publisher? Where is their $75 coming from? Like, how do they earn $75? Well, you've got the cost of materials. So if you think about textbooks, right? Textbooks are printed on glossy paper. Glossy paper is more expensive than non-glossy paper. Textbooks are bound, which means there's a cost involved with that process. Textbooks tend to be in full color. Well, full color ink is more expensive than black and white ink. They have to be distributed, right? You've got to pay for shipping costs. You've got to pay for the author, right? You've got to give them a royalty or give them a certain amount for the work that they did. You have to pay the people who actually produce the physical copy of the book. There's all those costs wrapped up into that textbook. But is there $75 worth of cost into that textbook? No way. No way in hell, right? It's literally impossible, which means there's a significant profit margin for every textbook for the publisher, not for the bookstore, right? Don't get mad at the bookstore. They're literally losing money, actually. Not only do they not make much money, they make negative money, right? The profit is all on the publisher's side. Adam wants to know, why do they use glossy paper? Why wouldn't they use cheap paper? Anybody have any guesses why textbooks tend to use more expensive glossy paper as opposed to like paperback books, as opposed to the paper you find in paperback books?
No, it's easier to write on glossy paper.
Mm-hmm. Durability. Textbooks are meant to be used by multiple people for a significant period of time. And glossy paper is going to hold up better than non-glossy paper. Because in the process of making glossy paper, you're actually adding more durability, you're adding more layers to it, to the product, which then makes it sturdier, right? It's going to hold up longer. Could you make a textbook without glossy paper? Absolutely. right? It's not a requirement. It's not necessary, but that's the reason they do use glossy paper, is to make it more durable, to make it last longer, which is kind of defeated by the fact that they update it every 2 years. So how long does the book really need to last when there's a new edition every 2 years? And like I said, the authors of these textbooks, they're not making bank off this, right? Nobody's getting rich writing textbooks. In fact, most of the time, textbooks are written by people who have to do it to keep their regular job. At most four-year institutions, they have a process called publish or perish, which means that as a faculty member, you have to publish a certain amount of work every year, or else you don't get tenure. You lose your job. Community college system doesn't have that, right? The community college system, we focus entirely on teaching, so I don't have to publish anything, right? I don't have to write journal articles or write books. But at the four-year system, you have all these faculty members who, if they don't write enough journal articles or books, they don't keep their job. So it's not like they're writing these books to make money. They're writing these books because they have to keep their job, and the publishers know that. So the publishers pay them very little to write these textbooks, right? It's a very, very small amount, and then very, very little royalties on the back end. Yeah, it's a common kind of joke that's made on Twitter, about professors who assign the textbooks that they've written as like handing out their own mixtape. They assign their own textbook because that's the only way they're going to make any kind of money off of it. It's off of those royalties. And if you have 100 people who are forced to buy your book on every college campus in the country, okay, yeah, you might be able to make some money off of it. But for the most part, the point here is publishing companies make a shit ton of money off of textbooks. They make a ton of profit off of textbooks. And the reason you pay an ungodly amount of money for a textbook is simply because they know you have to. There's been a big pushback within higher education, especially of going to what we call open source texts, meaning books you don't have to buy, or people taking the approach that I've taken of just no books. Screw you. We're not going to play your game. And now that the market is no longer as captive, you're seeing book prices shift. Books are not as expensive as they used to be. It used to be, $150 bucks a book across the board. Now you can get a lot of textbooks for like $30, which still is kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But the market has shifted, and so the pricing has changed quite a bit on textbooks in the last few years. Questions on any of that stuff so far while I take a drink? A drink of water, for the record, not bourbon. Yet. All right. So what are some of the trends? What are some of the trends we see in publishing? One, circulation and advertising sales are dropping meteorically. They're dropping like a plane full of Kennedys. People are not subscribing to newspapers and magazines, and people are not buying newspapers and magazines off the shelf, off the newsstand. As a result, advertising is decreasing dramatically. As I mentioned the other day, the way that any magazine, newspaper determines their advertising rates is by their reach, right? If your newspaper has a very large audience, you can charge more for advertising in that newspaper or magazine because you're going to have more people see the ad. Well, as circulation drops, so does advertising pricing. So does advertising interest. If I have a finite resource, right, I only have so much money to advertise my product. Why would I spend that money advertising in a magazine that nobody's ever going to see? That's stupid, right? That's as a business person, for me, that's a bad move. It's a bad call. So circulation and advertising sales go hand in hand. As fewer people are subscribing to magazines and newspapers, fewer advertisers are also putting money into magazines and newspapers. The second trend is that print is moving to digital. We talked about this before. 2005, no, not 2005. What the hell am I saying? In 1995, 1995 is when Newsweek launched an online edition. 2005 is when Slate launches completely online. Getting things all screwed up now. It was a very quick move, right? It was a very quick move from traditional print magazines and newspapers to go online and to shift to that digital world. And now you're seeing it all across the board. Every magazine, every newspaper, every book has a digital presence. There's no point. The resources are scarce in the print world, and the resources are expensive, especially when the market isn't there anymore. There aren't that many people who want to buy a newspaper physical print. There aren't a lot of people who want to buy a physical magazine. Most people are just looking at their phones all day or a computer screen all day. So why would I continue to invest in this kind of niche market of people who want to actually have newsprint on their hands when the majority of the market is perfectly fine to just stare at a screen, right? Why spend my money trying to get product to people who don't want to buy it anyway? Third, with the digital shift, nano publishing and self-publishing are becoming prevalent. I mentioned self-publishing before, the idea that anybody can put their book for sale on Amazon, right? There's a whole cottage industry of really bad authors who have their books on Amazon for sale, their digital books, their ebooks. Nano publishing is the idea that I'm not publishing it myself. I'm hiring this very small publishing company to do the legwork for me, right? Maybe my skill set is in writing. I know how to write stories, but I don't understand how the distribution works. I don't understand how to get it on Amazon, how to get it on Google, how to get it into all these venues. And so I hire a small publishing company to do it for me, right? I sell the rights to the book to that publishing company. I, as an author, then have a guaranteed income, right? I know I'm going to make whatever amount of money because I sold the rights to that book. Whereas in self-publishing, the only way I'm making money is off of sales, right? It's off of people actually buying my book. So it's very uncertain. I might only make, $2 off of this book if not enough people buy it. Whereas if I sell the rights to a nano publisher, okay, I know I'm going to make $6,000 off this book because that's what they're going to pay me for it. Now the risk is on the publisher. Now the risk of cost is on them because if they don't sell enough copies of the book, they don't make back their money. They lost money. They lost investment, not me as the author. Well, that's only really capable now because of digital shift. Think about it. If we didn't have digital books, if we didn't have ebooks, and I wanted to self-publish a book, I would have to get a printing press. I would have to buy all the paper, buy all the ink, figure out how to operate the machine, put all of it together, make the bindings, distribute all over the country. That is a significant amount of investment of both time and resources on my part. And there's no guarantee that people will actually buy my book. So it's a huge gamble. It's a huge risk to self-publish prior to the digital age. Now, there's no investment on my part, right? It's just time. I'm not investing any money to put my book out there. I'm only investing my time. Well, we got time. All of us have time. If it's something you want to do, you put it out there. A couple of years ago, my nephew got really excited because he, quote unquote, got published. And the way he got published is by participating in something called NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writing Month. That's what it is. National Novel Writing Month. The month of November, this thing that people do is they write a book, only in November. Every day they write a certain number of pages, and at the end of the month, you can submit your book to this company and they will publish it for you. In this case, publish simply means put into a physical book and give it to you. Right? It's not like it goes on bookshelves. My nephew's book isn't for sale anywhere. But he wrote this novel sent it to this company, and they printed it off and bound it into a hardcover book that he now has at his house. He's like, hey, look, I wrote this book. That's the closest thing we had to self-publishing prior to the digital shift. Were companies like that, where, I mean, you would pay for it. You would pay for them to print off the one copy of your book, but you weren't selling them. You know, you weren't making money off of it. It was just kind of a hobby thing of like, hey, look at this cool thing I have. The last trend that's really important here is the importance of convergence. As we move more and more towards the digital world and publishing, convergence becomes even more important. Not only in terms of ownership and in terms of the business side of things, but in terms of the accessibility of the products, right? A fun little kind of thought exercise I like to do with people when it comes to film is think about the convergence and the conglomeration that Comcast has become, that Comcast Xfinity is now, right? Comcast owns NBC, they own Universal, they own theater chains in the United States. They own the internet service that brings the world into your living room. They also have a cell phone company, right? They're a wireless company. So if Comcast decides that they want this movie to be broadly available, they can make it broadly available through a bunch of different means. Conversely, if they decide that they want movie B to not be easily accessible, they can make it really hard for a lot of people in this country to ever see that movie. They can not put it in their theaters. They can make it really slow to access any promotional materials online about that film. They can make sure it doesn't get onto streaming platforms, right? They can just flat out block it if they wanted to on their web or through their internet service. That kind of accessibility is only possible. That control over accessibility is only possible because of the prevalence of media convergence. And the same thing happens with the publishing industry, right? Same thing happens with newspapers and magazines and books. If a company doesn't want a book to get out, they can make it really difficult for anybody to access that material. If a company doesn't want this newspaper to succeed, they can make it really difficult for people to be able to access that newspaper or that magazine. Because our kind of access point to data, to information, is becoming more and more singular. Again, our screens. We're accessing everything through our screens. As a result of that, fewer and fewer companies have a say in how that information gets to our screen. And thus, fewer and fewer companies have access to telling us or to allowing information to get to us. Without that singularity of data, right? Without that singular kind of funneling of information could be all around us. It's really hard to block us from getting that information. It's really hard to narrow the scope when it's everywhere. But when all that information is coming in through one source, it's really easy to plug that one hole. It's really easy to throw a screen up in front of that one valve and say, all right, only this is getting through. In the publishing industry, convergence is financially their savior. As a business, convergence was absolutely necessary to keep publishing alive. From a consumer standpoint, it's toxic. It's incredibly, incredibly troublesome. And that is something I think you'll find is a trend as we move throughout this class, is oftentimes in media, what's good for business is not really good for the consumer base. Some situations are worse than others. Some are more dire than others, but in general, it's usually not good. Questions on any of those trends? Who?
No.
Damn you, Ben. Damn you.
Well, no one else is saying anything.
I know, but it's just startling when all of a sudden I have to hear your voice.
Yeah.
I will say of all the things I like best about being face to face as opposed to on Zoom is that in face to face you're wearing a mask, and so I don't really know what you look like, and that's
Ouch.
it's comforting. It's
Ouch.
fun. It's friendly.
Yeah. I get
There you
it.
go. There you go. Hey, same goes for me. Look, I look stupid too. Hey.
Hey, I don't think I look stupid.
No, I didn't know. I said I look stupid.
Yeah, well, you're inferring that I look stupid.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ben.
Yeah, okay,
I
sure.
think you're delusional.
Yeah, maybe a little.
I am not on it today. Hey, Mike. Can I just admit that I'm just not on it today. I'm just not like in my groove.
It's been
Can
like
I-
that like all week, ever
Yeah.
since the weekend. It's just kind of been.
Yeah. Yeah, can I just be human and admit, like, yeah, I'm just not.
No, that's against the law.
No, okay.
Yeah,
I keep
you
forgetting.
can't do that.
I keep forgetting I'm not a person. I'm a teacher.
Exactly.
We're not supposed to be human.
Yep.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, that's that. That's all I had. Usually I talk a lot more on those 3 slides, but like I said, just not there. My kids started school this week, so it's just pure fucking chaos. And the world is on fire. And there are 3 COVID cases at my daughter's high school now.
Nice.
They've been open for a week, and there's already 3 cases. But everything's fine. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. No worries. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming. Hey! What's up, Marvins? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you all virtually or something. I don't know. Marvins, you're in a classroom, bro?
Yes, sir. I am.
Man, is anybody else in there?
Nobody. Just
Okay, good. So I can be really loud. Cool. All right. Well, on Friday, we're going to start on the next unit, which is about audio, right? So we're going to talk about the recording industry. We're going to talk about radio. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to talk about how we got to where we are today and where we're going from here, what the future looks like for the audio industry. So again, hopefully that's more interesting to you guys. Hopefully you guys actually care more about, like music than you do about reading, because nobody cares about reading anymore.
I mean, I care about reading, but the whole
No.
thing with the print industry dying is just depressing because I actually like print. So I mean,
I
I
know.
actually like magazines and stuff, and then that's all going on the wayside.
Yeah, I'm one of those weird people who still likes to like have a physical, like
Yeah.
if I need to read something, I want it in my hands. I can't just I can't read off the screen. It hurts. But I know I'm in the minority. I know I'm outnumbered on that. So
Yeah, I still collect like back issues of old magazines I used to like, or like old comic books and stuff that way. So I mean, it's gonna be going by the wayside. So
yeah, I tried to read, like, I'm a comics guy, so I have I tried to read comics on an app, right, and on a screen, and it's just, I hate it.
no,
I hate it. So for like comics, I really have to have a physical book in my hand. But
yeah,
we're all gonna have to learn to adjust, I think. So yeah, hopefully more of you guys are interested in again, audio medium on Friday. So we'll get into that kind of stuff and yeah.
Woohoo.
Woohoo and shit. All right, guys. Have a good one. I will post the video from today's class on Moodle if anybody needs to catch up or show to their friends and throw shit at the TV. Your choice. That's an option. That's what I do. I watch old videos myself just so I can throw popcorn at the screen. You suck. There's no, football's not on yet, so I got to get warmed up for that. Yelling at the screen.
What football do you watch?
Professional football?
Gross. Okay.
I
guess
used
not
to.
gross, but
Yeah, I was
right.
gonna say I like college football too, but the problem is I like college football teams that never get on television. So
like Illinois.
no, I fucking hate
Well,
UMI.
good.
Yeah, bunch of stuck-up bastards. I hope they all get the Rona. No, I went to NIU.
I like they're gonna play.
Yeah, I went to NIU, so I love watching NIU football because like Michael Turner and Garrett Wolf, like phenomenal running backs who have come out of NIU, got into the NFL. I actually went to school at the same time as those guys, and actually had classes with them. So I love watching NIU football because I feel a connection to it. But no, professionally, I'm a Bears fan because I'm educated. I'm educated.
bad.
I am not at all attracted to my family or to farm animals, and therefore I don't like the Packers.
Yeah.
I am a Bears
Imagine
fan.
passing up Patrick Mahomes. Couldn't be me.
Yeah, I can't imagine that actually. Yeah, I can because a lot of teams did, but
Yeah, including
kind of forget that narrative, don't we?
Mitchell Trubisky.
Kind of forget that narrative. Hey, man, lots of people have bus. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's how it works. So
Sure, we can go with that.
yeah, we will go with that. We'll go with facts. We'll go with truth, Ben. Because in this classroom, we care about the truth.
Yeah, that's true.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
Fucking Wisconsin. God.
Yeah.
Oh, Wisconsin. They're the worst. Hey, quick question. Completely unrelated. Does everybody in this classroom know what the Civil War was fought about?
Are you kidding?
Do you guys know what the Civil War was? Yeah? Okay, just checking. I just wasn't sure if you guys knew what the Civil War was or not. Because my 16-year-old doesn't.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't pay attention in school.
Shut up, Ben.
I'm just saying.
You are not helping.
Yeah. Well, the truth. We're talking about
No.
the truth in this class.
No, not when
You
it comes to
just
my
said
children.
it.
No, not when it comes to my children. When it comes to my children, we lie.
All
We
right.
lie to make my point.
All
Far
right.
more
Well, this
important.
class is not awkward at all.
No,
Just-
not at all.
No.
They know what the Civil War is about.
What about Ben?
Nope.
Ben-
No
Ben
idea.
knows what the Civil War is.
No. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's
I
from
know.
Wisconsin. He's from Wisconsin, and he knows. Yeah, he's a Packer fan. He knows. Yeah, I know, right? Gross.
I want
Whatever.
Sorry, there's people walking through my workspace.
17-0, 17-3, whatever that score was. Aaron Rodgers on one leg.
Oh.
Yeah,
cool,
yeah. Remember that
cool,
one now?
Cool. No one likes you back. Okay,
Yeah, I
on
know.
Friday,
It's okay.
Chapter 4. I'll see you guys then. Sorry
Yeah.
for wasting the last 10 minutes of your life.